We have successfully completed our 5th year. So we have a 5-year countdown. And what that actually means for the community is we have 5 years to work with all of the agencies that are part of this community action plan to legitimately reduce emissions so that we don't have to do this again, whether it's through legislation or through advocacy. Our agenda for today. All right, I know the agenda. These are my lights. So the agenda for today is a quick roll call for steering committee members, followed by WOCAP's introduction of our new executive director, Veronica Edie, and a presentation from the Port of Oakland, along with CTE, to talk about the EPA funded Clean Ports program, and we'll close it out with an open forum. Yeah. Mike Alves, Ricky Wells, here. Bill Abudi, Richard Grohl, here. Miss Albertia Owens,
here. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Miss Owens.
Here I am.
World is going through a wonderful new chapter, and that chapter is being authored, right, and illustrated by Veronica Edie, who comes to us not only as a lawyer, which in this day and age, right, is a good thing for an organization to have, but also as a lifelong environmental justice advocate and one of my favorite pieces, a West Oakland resident.
Thank you. And I'm not going to take up much of your time, but I did want to say hello since I am here down the street. I've been at WOCAP now for a couple of months, although I was invited to join the board last summer, so technically maybe about 6 months. I come out of, as Nicole said, environmental justice work. So I've been in the Bay Area, went to law school in San Francisco at what was once Hastings, and graduated in the last century with some famous people, not just myself. Kamala Harris. So that'll date me, give you my age. But anyway, it's a real honor and a delight to be here and have the opportunity to work in and for the community that I choose to live in. Before I came to West Oakland, I've been here in West Oakland for 3 years now. Before I came to West Oakland, I was at the California Air Resources Board, and that's where I came to know WOCAP. I had actually been on the East Coast for several years before that. But I was one of the original architects of 8617. It just happened to pass a few months after I arrived at the Air Resources Board, and somebody said, here, do this thing. And that's how I got to know WOCAP, which, as you know, thank you all very much, was the first community to get officially designated, the first one to have a community emissions reduction plan in place. After that, I went to the Air District, and I was at the Air District for a few years, and that was during the time frame that I moved to West Oakland. By choice, I came here because of the history, because of the issues that this community was battling. I just wanted to be here in the thick of it. So out of all of the communities in the Bay Area, I moved first to Berkeley, and then I came here and put down my roots. So it's a real delight to be here tonight And I'm just excited about using what I've learned and the connections that I've made through my years at CARB and my years at the Air District in partnership with you all here. And of course, with the fabulous staff that we have at WOCAP. So I will leave it at that. I do want to say that Nicole and the other staff have been really good about introducing me to community members and Miss Margaret as well, and making sure that I have the connections with the community. So I really do look forward to having conversations over the coming months with all of you individually and learning about your communities and the issues that you think are the highest priorities. So thank you.
Next slide. Next slide. So this is a WOCAP meeting, which I think one of the big questions that often comes up is what is a WOCAP? What is the WOCAP? What is it? And it essentially is a game plan for how the community has engaged with to bring down all of the exposure that we have. So whether it's black carbon, whether it's fine particulate matter, whether it's trucks idling in our neighborhood, whether it's trucks idling in the port, whether it's supporting the city with the general plan to make sure that our land use and zoning reflects the fact that human beings live in West Oakland, whatever it is a collaborative process that is really, really aimed at making things a lot.
Can you move a little closer so people on Zoom can hear?
Aimed at making things a lot, a lot smoother and a lot safer for not only West Oakland residents, but the future residents that we see growing up there now. So to frame the Clean Ports project and to frame WOCAP's work with the Port of Oakland, right? These are directly from the West Oakland Community Action Plan, but these, I believe, are the highest levers to bring down emissions. And we're still seeing that one of, if not the dominant source, the dominant source of, right, pollution is coming from two places. One, past recycling, right? And then the second, simply because it's the port that have cargo and trucks, the Port of Oakland, right? One of the levers that will be the most impactful is if we can support the Port of Oakland with optimizing the port's appointment system. And Bill, can you explain exactly what the appointment system is?
Sure. So the containers come off the ship, and for the trucks to pick them up, because of long lines, basically mandated an appointment system. Otherwise, they get a fine if a truck idles more than 30 minutes. So what the terminals decided to do is slap something together. Some went to a company that was already pre-existing called Modal, and they started using that. It didn't have any specifications on what it does, as long as they have an appointment system. And so right now, we actually have long lines, long queues, because the appointment system doesn't work very well. The terminal operator can't see, they might see in their system that they issue all the appointments, but there's no trucks in front. So the next day, they'll put more appointments, and then we have a lot of trucks lined up. So that has to change. And as the ships get bigger and bigger, that's very important to get the truckers on time. And you would think it would make us more efficient with an appointment. It doesn't change a thing for us. It just makes us wait on the street away from the terminal for hours and hours, because our first appointment might be at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then we have to go back, and the next appointment is at 1. during that whole time was being inefficient.
I've seen it wind up on Seventh Avenue right there, over by Neil Armstrong Park. Just around
Yeah, it's a constant battle with, and this system, the appointment system, E-modal, every time they do an upgrade, they crash. They try and do the upgrade over the weekend, we go, oh, God help us on Monday, because it doesn't work.
What was the process? Selection of the company that provide that software?
E-modal, a monopoly, supported by the port. I actually, before E-modal, they were the first system on there, that did this kind of thing to try and do a community, type system. But they haven't upgraded. They are the worst. No, because the port doesn't run it. This is a service that's provided to the terminal operators. And they pay a fee for it. But it's just old technology. They were owned by the biggest steamship line, the biggest terminal in Oakland, SSA Marine, which has a lot of influence. And so the port doesn't want to walk that. So we need to do it on this side. Yes.
I worked at an agricultural company that is the largest dairy company. So they implemented a truck appointment system at the distribution center that radically revolutionized the efficiency and made us so much more efficient to truckers because they didn't have to wait because they had the appointment with them. So it was amazing how much improvement. So theoretically, it's not the theories of things.
It just the software, just there's no competition. They don't upgrade, they don't do anything, and it's just like.
So I'm sorry, now I hate the drive. What's the issue? So they issue an appointment to the truckers, and then what happened? Truckers don't show up.
No, truckers will wait in line. It doesn't matter whether you have an appointment or not. The appointment stays there. They just control us. So it's almost like, think of it this way. There's a lot of penalties on the truckers for containers to be returned, picked up and returned. On both sides, we have lots of pressure with these penalties. Well, with the bad appointment system, they make more money off of penalties than shipping the container. And so the incentive is not there for to fix that because everybody's making money off of us and off of the shippers and the importers.
Here's what I'm showing. So say you got an appointment at 7. Somebody else shows up that doesn't have it. So why aren't they like your appointment? You have to go along.
They do. They handle a lot of trucks. I mean, these terminals, SSA handles about 4,000 trucks a day. And the other terminals, smaller terminals, handle about 1,200 appointments a day. But they just don't space them out. They can't tell whether they have enough appointments for those trucks. Something happens inside of the just breaks apart.
And that moves me into strategy 32, right? Which I think the appointment systems have to come first in terms of the introduction, so you can understand, right, the lay of the land. WOCAP strategy 32 is the Port of Oakland will study the effects on truck flow, congestion, and related potential health impacts due to increasing visits from larger container ships. You might have heard of the current proposal with the churning basins. Essentially, it is designed to support mega ships, right? The concept of if you build it, they will come. Well, I don't think West Oakland specifically asked for these mega ships to come, right? And one of the challenges that we just heard from Bill is if we have not yet figured out the appointment system with the roughly 6 to let's say 10,000 trucks that we have daily, how is the Port of Oakland, right? And the city of Oakland, what will that plan be when it comes, right? If we do move forward. Right. I know, Colleen, you're not the, you won't be able to answer that.
Well, yeah, but I just wanted to just clarify
Yes.
also that the larger vessels are already coming today. And so the widening is to make it safer for those large vessels to maneuver and turn in this, what we call the turning basins. So we have 2, there's one in the inner harbor and then there's one in the outer harbor. So it's to accommodate the current and future larger vessels that are coming. So I just wanted to clarify that. But then also and next, maybe at the next meeting, we can show you some how the larger vessels versus the smaller vessels work, because these larger vessels will essentially replace the smaller vessels. So the same amount of containers are coming off as they would from smaller vessels. So we did look at the queuing study and stuff, and it based on our study that there's no impacts off of our Seaport campus. So the queuing should stay still on our Seaport campus. But we can come back. I don't have the presentation materials. If that's of interest here, we can come
It
back.
absolutely
Yeah.
is. We would love to learn about, if you're able to share that study, that would be
Absolutely, yeah.
wonderful. The impact on sea level rise, which I know is a
Is
concern
there.
for the city, as I imagine it is for the Port of Oakland. And we support, I will say on the record, WOCAP supports economic growth. And we also know that we can scale without harm. But we don't have a roadmap for that or a commitment yet as to what those mitigation efforts will look like for the West Oakland community and also our comrades in East Oakland. Right, so when we talk about sea level rise, right, I don't want to forget them and what they're experiencing. Right, this is a frontline community all along 880.
So, yeah, no, I was just gonna ask the question about the, so what we're saying is that, I understand what you're saying, the volume of containers is not projected to increase. But as the ships get larger, the volume stays the same because because it's fewer, because the larger ships are contained essentially, and the smaller ships contain essentially the same number of containers. It's just that, is that right? Or
It's actually, yes, but there is a forecasted, a forecast, not a forecast, but there is a forecast that by 2050, it's 4.2 million TEUs. So that's regardless whether it's a smaller vessel or a larger vessel.
so the volume is projected to grow. So her point about the problem exacerbating with the appointment system we currently have in place is still valid.
I don't, how it connects with I'm not familiar with the equipment system because I'm in the environmental department, so I leave it to my maritime friends and.
But it still seems like it's a concern, right? If the current system, current one system was issued the efficiency thing, right? And it's the.
Right, but
As the
I mean,
volume grows, the problem exacerbates, right?
let me get back to you. I don't have an answer to that because I don't know if that equipment system was included or accounted for when we did our analysis of the queue, with the forecasted growth. So I don't have an answer. So
Richard, you know,
Do you have a question?
Just, really like, I'm Richard Grow. I was working with EPA when I first started working with the community 25 years ago. Retired 6 years ago. I'm a director. I'm just blown away, Bill, that we're still talking about the appointment system here. That means something, and something has failed here. And I would also encourage the port to never encourage us to think CEQA is protecting us. Where I came in, it was all about the open army base. And frankly, NEPA and CEQA had both failed tremendously. So I just have to say CEQA has no credibility in some of this. It is not protective. It is not adequate. So please don't cite CEQA as addressing or resolving any of our concerns.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
CEQA is completely different now today, I would say.
Oh, please.
Yeah, and I was just addressing some of the studies that were done, but I'm not disagreeing.
Just want to remind everyone to project their voice as much as possible because we have a bunch of folks online who want to hear this conversation.
I have you next and then Mr. Ford.
Yeah, I have a question about the appointment system too. Do we have any examples of how other ports are handling this thing, thorny issue like Los Angeles, the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach there, who have much higher volumes and they're experiencing some of the same problems and pollution and health issues and stuff as our community. But so are there any examples of a good system that we know of?
Yeah, when we have competition, we get a better system. So the one that I can think of, and we had it here in Oakland when Marine Terminal was here. It was called Voyager Track. And what that did is it was a two-way communication tool between the trucker and the terminal operator. So you see how the containers are, they're in rows, they're stacked up. And so each machine can handle 30 moves an hour. So they would be very transparent. They'd say we have X amount of machines and it's 30 per hour, and you would make your appointment. So if I see this stack has 30 and this one has 5 waiting, I can switch my appointment. With this system, you cannot do that. You don't have visibility. And most of the time, you don't have the machines there and they make you sit and wait. And sometimes you get in and out in 15 minutes in service, and sometimes you could be there all day long. So you can't make your appointments. You have to have multiple drivers tossed at this problem. But yes, competition is good. And there's a lot of new technology. The e-modal was built. I remember when the port asked me for my opinion about it, and I was very supportive of the concept, but didn't want the monopoly. And now it's a monopoly. We don't have any other choice.
Ricky?
At Long Beach or in LA, do you know if the port manages the appointment system or if the terminal operators manage the?
Both here and in Long Beach, LA, that it's the terminal operators that manage that. They pay for the appointment system. They pay for the RFID system. All of that stuff that they sell.
Are there any examples of the port itself operating or managing the appointment system?
The one that I would know would be like the Georgia Port Authority, just because I have somebody there that I know, and they run, the state runs the port and they control everything.
Mr. Ford?
Yes, as a former ILWU member or CIC member, I was an identified casualty, but I had the opportunity to work the yard on those equipment pieces that you're talking about. The wait times were, it wasn't 30 picks per minute per hour, we did 30 picks in a day. So that's the pace that's on the dot on the inner side of the operation. If you look at the ratio of the containers coming off the ship as you're working under the stringer on the stringer, right? As they're coming out at a quicker ratio, but then they go to the yard and they get stacked up. So when you're in the yard working oh my God, I mean, between 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock break, I think done like 3 trucks. So it's really the rank and file and the guys that are doing the work and getting past the apathy that is rampant in the union membership. I got mine, you get yours. So it's in Southern Cal, you have there's all three ships touch the ship. When it comes in, all three ships touch the ship. But in the bay, you got guys chasing shorties, you got all these things, it's called a drop and go, where you just drop in and you take all the lashing down and you bounce for the day. So you have all these different little idiosyncratic things that you don't know about, but this is what it is. And the whole thing is, I'm like, hey, we got a truck. And it's like, hold on, Tiger, slow down. You move a little too fast. We don't do things down here at the dock like that. So there is definitely a rank and file problem or a rank and file issue with dealing with their pace, to deal with your pace, to deal with your pocketbook, to deal with this environmental thing that they're, because just idle. What the hell? So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. And the last strategy that is extremely important for 2026 and its connection to the Clean Ports program is will and the community will continue the work of greening the shipping industry. The question currently, right, and we'll hear more from Colleen and Gary, how can green investments build long-term community wealth? We know the port's doing okay, right? How do any of us, right, in West Oakland, how do we actually get these jobs that build generational wealth, jobs that our families are proud of and jobs that we're proud of in the maritime field? And that has been a big question. Richard, I know that you and Ms. Margaret have been working on those co-benefit agreements for, dare I say, decades. And I don't want to date anyone here, but for decades, and West Oakland is still pretty much in the same situation I would argue that it had been when I moved into the neighborhood 15 years ago. Next slide, please.
How do you define greening there?
I mean, that's a challenge, is that in the strategy, there are not any. Welcome, Ms. Margaret. There are not any benchmarks for that. Right? Like exactly what that means. Okay. So some other strategies, right? For 2026 and beyond, is transitioning to zero emission cargo handling equipment, which Colleen will speak about, strengthening the truck management programs, which includes actually enforcing the truck ban and the truck routes, right, in the neighborhood, expanding shore power, developing clean fueling and charging infrastructure, which Clean Ports will discuss, and just monitoring port-related emissions. And what that exactly means is having fence line monitoring, which will be funded by the Clean Ports project.
Silverdia has her hand up.
Speak up, please.
Just letting Nicole know we have a speaker online with their hand up.
Ms. Owens, go for it.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to get in before you moved on to this. I can't remember who was just speaking about the trucks, and I noticed that it seems to be inconsistency in how the trucks work here, and then when they go down to Southern California. Is there a way that each, particularly on the West Coast, if they could share what their SOP is, so that when you going into the different
SOP, please.
Standard operating procedures, as to how they work and get their work done, so that you can come in and easily adjust to what it is they do versus how you operate here, because you are in a different port. And they should be able to understand how each other work, so that it can flow, the interactions can flow, and you don't have those hiccups going from Southern Cal to up to the Bay, and even, like up into Washington State and places like that.
I appreciate that, Ms. Owens, and that will be additional food for thought for the port, and something that would be extremely valuable for them to partner with, right, in order to just streamline a lot of the challenges that we've just heard. Okay. And
Right.
I'm going to hand it over to Colleen Liang from the Port of Oakland to talk about the Clean Ports project funded by the EPA.
Great, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. I took a lot of notes, so I'm gonna take that back. I'm sorry I don't have the the answers, but
This point, and then right also how what's the here.
sure.
You got to put the door over here.
Yeah.
Competing with
Close the door.
traffic over here and the freeway over here for as part of the volume.
Good evening, everyone. Colleen Liang, Director of Environmental Programs and Planning. Today, Nicole invited us to provide an update on our Clean Ports program. Many of you may not even know about it, so it may just be more of a, information to you, but some of you who do know about it, we'll be offering up. So. It is a lot quieter now. In about 2023, EPA reached out to all ports, informing us that there was going to be this large funding opportunity to transition towards zero emissions, and this is U.S. wide. And so we scrambled at the bit to try to put together a very competitive application, because not only are we trying to compete with other ports in the U.S., but we're also competing with California ports as well. Working with the community. So in 2024, we reached out to several community-based organizations, specifically West Oakland Environmental Indicators Project. We also reached out to West Oakland Cultural Action Network. We also reached out to Black Cultural Zone and also those foundations. And together we worked together on putting together a very, I want to say it's award-winning because we did win the award, a very transformative, very exciting program that we've never done before. And what that is that we received, and then so we submitted the application, and then in the end of 2025, we received $322 million. And we really could not have done it without the community, because they really led what we wanted to include as part of this project. So what is part of this project? Part of this project is converting and transitioning our cargo handling equipment, as well as drayage trucks, to either battery electric or hydrogen fuel cell. So towards zero emissions. It's over 700 pieces of equipment. Approximately about 500 are trucks, and then about 200 are cargo handling equipment. Those numbers keep fluctuating because we're working with our terminal operators as well as our project partners, and Gary will go into that in a little bit more, but it is approximately 700 pieces of equipment at the Seaport campus. And then part of that, as I mentioned, in working with these community-based organizations, we also wanted to make sure that there's funding for the community-based organizations to spread the word, also engage with their community, because we're leaning on them to receive feedback on just port operations, receive feedback on this program. So we worked with each organization on their work plan and their budget to be included as part of our application. Also included is our workforce. So we have 3 workforce development organizations that are also included, because as technology advances, so does the technical skill sets of our workforce. And so we partnered with 3 organizations to help with the green workforce development. So that's also part of the program. And together we did win so we received notification that we won the award in 2024. So what did we do in 2025? Or actually, maybe I didn't go, maybe the next slide is focused on community. Am I jumping too fast? All right, sorry. So the key benefits of the program, as you can imagine, is really health concern, focused on health, working on improving air quality here in West Oakland, and then building resiliency, because part of the project includes battery storage and solar at the Seaport campus. So because this is going to draw a lot of power, and we need to produce that, have enough electrical capacity to support this program. So that this program also includes for that resiliency. And then also, as I mentioned, workforce opportunities. Okay, so we first wanted to highlight the community and the engagement. I mentioned we partnered with 4 community-based organizations, and although each community-based organization has different objectives or different work plans and activities, it's all the same goal of reducing emissions in West Oakland. And then it includes quarterly meetings. These things that we have to do are quarterly reporting, quarterly meetings, getting out there in the community and spreading awareness of what is happening at the port and this project. Slide, please. Or I guess enough. Yeah, over it. Thanks. And so I won't go into each one, but each, as I mentioned earlier, each community-based organization had to develop their own work plan, had to come up with their own budget, and then we had to submit that. Once we were awarded the grant, we had to submit then all the details to EPA for them to approve it. So last year we worked together with WOWIP, we worked together with WOCAP, Rose Foundation, and Black Cultural Zone to submit that, and it has been approved by EPA. And this is just Rose Foundation and WOWIP, the other one too. And then, as I mentioned, as technology advances, so does the workforce. And so we made sure that we work together with the workforce organizations. And I think the next slide will go over each one, but really to focus on training, advance them in the workforce, industry, and coordinating them with the industry partners who are going to use this equipment. And then also some of our community-based organizations are including a workforce development. So they will also be helping with the workforce development and making sure that West Oakland is included in that process.
Paulina, I'm gonna pause for a minute just
Yeah.
to see if there's any questions on the
Over
floor
here.
or from steering committee members. Ms. Porter?
Hello, everyone. My name is Miss Margaret Gordon. I'm one of the founders of the West Oakland Environmental Energy Unit. I am the resident of West Oakland since 1992. And also I am a former commissioner for the Port of Oakland. From 2007 to 12, I was there for 5 years. So I have been engaged in various parts of the development of the port for over 25 years. I think the missing piece here is that the collaboration was not only with WOEIP, but another organization called the Oakland Port Sustainability Collaboration was a key partner and helped writing the grant, which is not here, which is staff from Earth Justice, because Earth Justice had a campaign about greening the port. All right, so just to be clear, there was just more than one partner in the process of writing this grant. And that this grant process to do green up the port has been gone over since we developed the process for reducing emissions and putting in electrification on the docks. Okay, on the docks. So let's be much more mindful about how this stuff began. So this has been over a 20-year plus development. It just didn't happen in 2001, 2002, 2003. It's been over a 20-year process of having a port to dismiss the diesel particulates that they have been using that's coming out the tailpipe on both ends of the trucks, trains, and ships. So I just want clarification of the history that it didn't just start. And also, let's be very clear. If for the thing about employment and jobs, if our people don't have the skills, the tools, and the money to pay to be in the union, that needs to be very clarified and stipulated. Because I know, and who else around here that worked on the Cypress Freeway replacement of the 880, we only got 65 jobs. And that was a federal program. So let's be very clear and mindful of what it takes to put people to work at the port. Either they become a teamster, an ILW worker, are part of Local 21, the engineers, the scientists. So let's be very clear about the process of who will get these jobs. And also be very clear on what is the decision-making process. Are we there to give input or feedback on making decisions that produce policy and mandate those policies?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Margaret. yeah, that was, thank you for providing more of the context and the background. Sorry, I just jumped into the Clean Ports program, but Miss Margaret is correct that it's been years in the making. And I don't want to dismiss that. It's years in the making. And Miss Margaret was leading a lot of that charge as well. So I appreciate that. And then I didn't want to forget the West Oakland Ports Sustainable Collaborative. It was not just Earth Justice, but there was also the Union of Concerned Scientists, as well as UC Berkeley sits on that.
Collaboration.
It was definitely a collaboration. That's right. Yeah, that led and that said, hey, Port, focus on drayage trucks, focus on cargo handling equipment. So Ms. Margaret is correct. That was part of the formation of the application. So yes, thank you. Ms. Margaret, yes, question?
Yeah, so the Port of Oakland, my name's Mike Alves. I'm from the California Air Resources Board. We heard that the Port of Oakland has used feedback from the community in these collaborations for the grant and such, but I noticed you were mentioning that you guys want more feedback and awareness in the community. To what level are you guys planning on utilizing that feedback within certain decision structures?
As much as we can, we're going to incorporate it. It depends on what the feedback is. We'll work together with the community once we get that feedback. And it's not just like a once a year, it's like quarterly or periodic with each organization. And then they'll share that feedback with us, and we'll see how we can continue to drive forward and advance towards zero emissions. There's still some grant funding opportunities out there where the port can apply and not the community. So we're working together to see how we can collaborate together. So it depends on what the comments are on the feedbacks, but we're still trying to receive that. And that's what we're hoping.
Feedback does not it's not decision.
I know, that's right. Yeah.
How do we, that's where who is making the decision making and who is setting the agenda? Is it the port or the residents? Not just the community.
Yes.
The residents are setting the priorities for the agenda, for the process, for all those things. Feedback is just you scratching the surface. You're not going deep down into who was saying what color, what equipment, who is going to navigate the equipment, how far into the analyzation of the equipment, where are going to be the air monitors, all those different things. That's part of decision making. That is not feedback and input.
Yeah.
And then also, where is the clarification, training, and engagement for people to understand the operation of maritime in this project? Where is a series of classes for people to understand this momentum time to green up the sport?
Yeah. So we're working, that's where we are working together with the community-based organizations, kind of working backwards on what Ms. Margaret, you were mentioning, to work on awareness and empowering the community and the youth on just more information so that they can answer the questions. And we work together on that aspect. The air quality monitoring program, we are working with the community-based organizations who will work together on when selecting the consultant, who that consultant is, locating those fence line monitoring. I'm jumping ahead in my presentation, but that's okay. We can talk about it now. But it's community led with the community-based organizations. So they're going to be representing the community on these locations of the monitoring system, what we're going to monitor, the type of equipment. Now, keeping in mind that we do have a certain budget that we're supposed to be within, but still, that is something that we're going to work together with the community on.
And the last thing, where is the partner agreements?
That we
Is
just
there any partner agreement?
Yeah. So we just last year worked on the agreements directly with the community-based organizations. And we also just was awarded a community engagement consultant to help collaborate in the partnership.
Is that one of the slides?
That's not on here of the of bringing them together because
But the partner agreement gives power
yes
of decision to the residents. And that should be part of the process
and that
of a slide to ensure who has what power, who has what power to make decisions, who is setting the agenda.
and we can definitely add them on future presentation. We don't have it here on the slide. We're trying to add that on. Okay.
We had a couple of great questions from online. One is how many jobs have been created or will be created? And two, will workforce programs lead to direct hires and will they be on union tracks?
Sorry, I'm taking notes. The first question is how many jobs have been created? I'm going to look at Gary. I don't think it has started yet because we just entered into the agreements with all our project partners, and they're just starting to put together their program because that takes a minute to put together the program, and then they'll start implementing their training and the workforce opportunities. So we don't have that information yet. This is a 4-year program, so it takes a little bit to kind of develop the whole program, and then they can start implementing it. So, but we'll be back. I mean, we're that's part of our goals as well, is to keep coming back and updating the group on the progress of this program.
And then the other online question is, how will truck electrification affect the local energy grid?
It shouldn't. So we did an energy capacity study, and it shouldn't affect the neighbors. The port actually is our own utility, so we purchase power that feeds into the seaport. So it should not affect. I know that still is a concern, but it should not impact.
Ricky,
so when Ms. Margaret brought up having the actual residents setting the agenda, I'm wondering, is that a way to having having them help set the agenda? Will that be a way to, I guess, identify gaps in funding and things that cannot be covered by this grant so that it provides an opportunity to pursue other types of funding, specifically around training and workforce development and especially the education piece that Ms. Margaret had brought up, because people don't understand how the port operates. And I think that's very important for them to understand in order to provide meaningful input going forward.
Yes, absolutely. So that's where we're going to lean in on the community-based organization, pointing to the core. WOIC, we're going to lean in on WOIC, WOCAN, Rose Foundation, and Black Cultural Zone to go out to the community members, get this feedback, and we'll be here as well and hear where the gaps are. Where can we push ourselves further, and where can we look for funding? So that's all part of that.
There's no standardized educator for maritime unless you go into Vallejo. You see Berkeley, Laney, Peralta does not teach maritime. You have to go to the maritime program to understand maritime. The port has never had classes, ongoing classes to educate folks about what is meant to have maritime here in West Oakland. So if residents, has never been a series of classes, understand the economics, the power of decision, how you get on the board, how grants are written, has never been that level of education to West Oakland.
So is this an opportunity to really change that? When I was at USDOT and we stood up the Reconnecting Communities Institute, one of the key things we focused on was nationwide tapping these experts in order to go into communities and help build those bridges and to establish those programs. So even though we can't leverage RCI for that, but is there a way for a model to come out of this project that links directly and provides and has Vallejo Maritime providing services directly, and maybe residents don't even have to leave. Like we have facilities here in West Oakland where they can come down and teach, and I don't know, I'm just
these are great. This is great feedback. I think this is something then I need to take back to the port. I think at a minimum, we can, when the community-based organizations have their meetings with the community members, the technical expertise experts at the port can come and do Port 101s. I know that doesn't bridge the entire gap, but we can start there. We do have a new workforce development manager. I'm going to tell him I'm bringing all this information back to see ways that we can move forward with the workforce here in West Oakland. So I'm taking a lot of notes, but I think that's a lot of great ideas.
I see Wanda and Veronica.
Quickly, as a itty bitty community-based organization that didn't get in on this, are there spaces for other groups to participate and grow with the process?
For the Clean Ports program, it's already set, but for future grant funding opportunities, we're open to, and that's part of the feedback, like hearing what the community is interested in or what the concerns are, where we can focus on a specific opportunity, then we can go look to see if there's any funding to meet the needs of the community.
And so to stay at the table in that conversation and consideration, where should I position myself?
I'm not sure what you mean by where should you position yourself.
Well, like I happen to be here at this meeting, so
Yes.
now I get this, right?
Yes.
But where is the information and the dialogue that you're talking about going to be taking place?
So we're going to rely on if you're part WOWIP or WOCAN, or if we're not here. If we're not here, then, but if you have access to WOWIP or not access, but if you're engaged with WOWIP or WOCAN or Rose Foundation or Black Cultural Zone, they're also an avenue.
And I hear your question more as for future grant opportunities, how do you plug in?
Right.
Am I hearing that correctly?
Absolutely.
So the Clean Ports program, right, it was definitely discussed in the Sustainable Port Collaborative, which Ms. Margaret mentioned.
Mhm.
And I think opening that space up to aligned organizations and residents is one of the first steps to actually,
Beautiful.
being at the table. So I think touching base there after the
Right.
meeting, right?
Yep.
To get that invitation to actually, the table can get bigger,
Right.
right? So
Beautiful.
let's make it bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, Veronica? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question about the energy capacity study. Is that public? I know that sounds very nerdy of me, but
It's not nerdy at all. Our utilities department did that, so I can see if we can share a copy of that energy study or the results of that with the group here.
yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
We're very pro narrative.
I know, that's what it is.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too.
Yeah, yeah.
That was David. That's David. Rubin.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did.
Welcome.
Lots of nerds here.
The last question, Colleen, before I kick it back to you. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Christy. I work as a naturalist at Middle Harbor with Nurture Nature.
Yeah.
My question is kind of twofold. Will there be enough trucks that it will reduce pollution in Oakland, West Oakland, and Oakland overall? Or is it going to still be a small fraction of all the traffic? And then my second question is whether this administration can claw back any of this money or has it been distributed?
So the first question is, there's about 5,000 trucks that visit the Seaport campus a day. This is only a fraction. So we're just starting, and you're talking about specifically the dray trucks that are transitioning. So about 500 out of 5,000. So we're continuing to work together and maybe taking Gary's presentation, but we do have also a truck loaner program that as part of this project, because there are some independent operators who are concerned with electric or any zero emission trucks and the cost, the use of it. So we're hoping it's like a library book where people can check out the truck, use it within the Seaport campus, hopefully get them more familiar with and it's pretty awesome. The battery electric, they're very quiet, but get them more familiar with the technology and hope that will help encourage them to transition towards zero emissions. And then the second question.
Can the money be clawed back?
Can the money cloud? So we were concerned with that. We were really concerned with that. And I can tell you it was a whiplash. They're calling back. They're not. They are. They're not. We're at the stage where it's not clawed back. It wasn't part of the big, beautiful, whatever, ordinance or plan under the Trump administration. So we are fine. We are good. Yeah.
Is the grant agreement signed?
With EPA, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And we already started drawing down. I think some of the communities drawing down from that. Miss Margaret?
Okay, the last comment I'd like to make is the ability to carve out reparations for the harm that the port has done for the last 80+ years to West Oakland, especially to our health, our public health, our children, our seniors, and we know that there is a lack of education around the cardiovascular disease that is still assuming many of our seniors and asthma is our children. And that part of the respiration should be also about indoor air. We have what's coming outside indoor. Where is that part of this funding? And also about developing a cohort committee to look at that, because there are harm to West Oakland on our streets, noise, our curb cuts, 24/7 of running trucks through this neighborhood. Are the truckers getting health services? There's a lot of other amenities that should be happening for those who have been suffering the most for over 80 years because we have to live next to this port. So I'm asking, is the port putting in its own money on the table, or is it all about the grant money?
As part of this grant, we are putting our own money in here as well.
And
but
it's designated where?
What was that?
It's designated to help the reparations.
So it's not. The EPA grant has specific guidelines that we have to meet, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to bring this back and talk to the team about it. I don't have an answer, but I just know that right now I don't think it's included.
But the port money should be reparation money.
So
money coming out the port budget should be established and standardized for reparation. Because I'm not hearing, I hear about emission reduction, but I'm not hearing about health reduction to us. When you go over to a Prescott school, the school nurse got inhalers for kids' names on. We're not tracking how many people are still having lung disease or cancer disease in this neighborhood. So where is that reparation and help for those and who, and also supporting one existing health service, the West Oakland Health convey well and having more services for health, dealing with health complications and equipment for this community. Also about the indoor air. Are y'all part of the reparation should be about how are y'all standardizing supporting buildings that have HVAC systems put in it?
I have the answers to that, but I'm taking lots of notes and I'll respond back to those questions. Questions before we move on to the next slide? I think I'm just going to turn it over to Gary now to talk about the technical partners. Sorry.
Okay.
Gary?
All right. Thanks, Colleen.
Hi,
Hi, everyone. My name is Gary Shui, and I'm a managing consultant with a nonprofit company. We're called the Center for Transportation and the Environment. And I have a much more enviable job than Colleen because I get to help with the implementation of the grant with the technical partners. And what we mean by technical partners are the various port tenants and partners who are purchasing and deploying the zero emissions equipment, whether it's the drayage trucks or the cargo handling equipment. And so the list of those folks is up here. Colleen already started talking about the Bay Area Air District and the air quality monitoring, and that's not what I'm responsible for. So Colleen can elaborate on that further if you'd like. But all of the other folks are involved in the deployment of the equipment itself. And so I get to report on progress, which I really enjoy doing. So I'll get into that. But yeah, and is it okay if I touch your computer? Thank you. Okay, so this table might be a little hard to read, so I'm going to skip to the next table, which has essentially the same information, but this is a breakdown of what all of the technical partners are responsible for under this grant. So it talks about the partners on the left. It has a brief description of the kinds of equipment that they have all committed to procuring and operating, the numbers of them,
And there's also a scrappage commitment. So in addition to bringing on board the new zero emissions equipment, they are also committing to scrapping a certain number of the older diesel equipment. And there's also infrastructure involved. The infrastructure, we are basically talking about electric chargers to help charge the vehicles throughout the day and at night, because most of them, almost all of them are battery electric. So there's also a whole process of installing infrastructure so that the electricity can flow to the equipment. So this is probably a slightly better slide to help describe kind of what's happening in terms of the equipment. And on the far left are the drayage trucks that we've been talking about so far tonight, the 500 approximately that Colleen mentioned. And there's a number of partners that are involved in procuring or purchasing those drayage trucks and operating them. Interestingly, I'll talk about a few of those in particular on the next slide, relating to the truck leasing programs and the truck loaner program that Colleen mentioned. But there's also right next to the drayage trucks, there's yard tractors, and all of these other things are what we call cargo handling equipment, and those are the vehicles that stay on the port. They don't leave. They're just there to move containers and trailers around within the terminals. So the yard tractors are basically smaller versions of trucks. They're short, they're stubby, but they have to take those containers, whether they're empty or loaded, and move them around inside the terminal area. Forklifts are used for various purposes. There's many different sizes. There's little ones that people can stand on them, like you see in Costco or Trader Joe's in the back. They're moving small pallets or pieces. But then there's also super large ones that can lift 50,000 pounds, 80,000 pounds of bulk cargo or empty containers in some cases. So there's a wide variety of forklifts that will be procured through this grant. There's also top handlers, and top handlers are a version basically of a huge forklift that lifts a container from the top, and it can basically stack them up into those stacks that you see at the port, up to 5 or 6 high. This container handler can pick up the container and stack them, and they can move them around and put them onto the trucks that are coming into the port to pick up the trailer, right? So the container handler itself is a very large piece of equipment, looks like a gigantic forklift that's used for that purpose. And similarly, reach stackers is just a different version of that. It can lift containers and stack them. So it's also used on the port to move containers. And then there's also one rail car mover. CVAG is the Central Valley Ag Group. They're a port tenant. So they have a site at the port where they receive train loads of nuts and grain from the Central Valley, where they collect it in the Central Valley, they bring it by train to the port, and then they have to break up that train. That train could be 100 cars long, right, coming straight from the Central Valley. And then they have to break up that train and process that, load it into containers, which then get exported out of the port. So there's one little piece of equipment that they want to electrify just to move those rail cars around. And so then in addition to that, there's the scrappage summary, the summary of scrappage equipment. So that includes a lot of those drayage trucks. It includes a lot of the yard tractors. And then finally on the left, in addition to the chargers, so various of these port tenants and terminals will have to install chargers, but then there's also one tenant who's installing a solar array and battery storage. And that's a very important part of this grant to help them demonstrate how they can be more energy efficient and more resilient and continue to operate the vehicles even if there's a power outage. That also includes the on-site generation, so they don't have to rely as much on the grid. And hopefully that can help demonstrate to other folks as well how that kind of system can help with some of the energy challenges, right? We are talking about a lot of pieces of equipment, and Colleen and you all asked some questions about, is there going to be enough energy around? And so that's what the utility department is really focused on, making sure that there is enough energy, but systems like this with the solar on site can help reduce the need for bringing in power and really generate it on site. So for the status, I broke this down into a couple of slides. So the first one is focused on the trucks. And on the left-hand side is just a quick update on the truck leasing and loaner programs. So there's two major truck leasing programs. Each one, and they're run by one company called Watt EV and another company called Forum Mobility. And each of those companies is responsible for purchasing trucks and leasing them out to truck operators. And they account for most of the trucks. So YDV is responsible for at least 200 trucks, and Forum is responsible for at least 226 trucks. I don't think the number's on there, but 226 trucks. And so their model is to sign up carriers or, truck operators, for a leasing commitment. And the whole point of this is to reduce the upfront cost. So instead of asking a carrier to pony up a lot of money to buy a zero emissions truck, this program is going to help reduce the lease price so that they can lease it for 3 years or 5 years, depending which company it is. And the company is going to take care of the upfront costs. They're going to work on the incentives portion. So they'll apply for state incentives and combine it with the EPA funding to make the overall cost of the truck low. And then they will also, they're also constructing, separately from this grant, they are also constructing their own charging facilities. So there will be a new one at the port, right next to the Oakland International Container Terminal or the Matson Terminal. And then there's also one near the airport, which is on port property, but it's right off of Hagenberger. So each of these charging stations will provide different charging options for these electric trucks. The mix is that they'll have really fast chargers. They're talking about the megawatt charging standard, which can recharge one of these battery electric trucks in about half an hour. So that's comparatively really fast, right? Instead of just normally talking about charging overnight, right? They will also offer overnight chargers. But once we're talking about what we say opportunity charging, they can do a really quick charge, and that will get them out to the Central Valley and back. That kind of operation, and fit it hopefully within the driver's work period. Yes.
I think we paid for a fancy new hydrogen fueling station over there by the port. Everything I hear is electric. What's happening with hydrogen?
Yeah. So interestingly, yeah, and that's kind of my update on the right, which is that, yeah, so two of the partners were signed up for hydrogen fuel cell trucks, who were interested in purchasing the trucks and operating them through this grant. And basically, hydrogen has experienced a pretty big challenge. In the past year, a lot has changed. So the only domestic manufacturer of fuel cell trucks, Nikola, went bankrupt. Now we do have the charging station, and it is being used, right? It's being used by one of the carriers affiliated with Hyundai. So they have 30 trucks that they are using every day through this hydrogen fueling station. So that itself, the hydrogen fueling station itself, is a great asset. There aren't any others like it for heavy duty in Northern California. But the price the retail price for hydrogen is very high right now. It's much higher than the comparative cost of diesel, right? So we can't realistically ask any carrier to purchase a hydrogen truck and operate with the cost of the hydrogen where it is right now. The hydrogen itself is being shipped in from Las Vegas currently. And so there's lots of projects ongoing now to create new hydrogen production facilities. The closest being in the Central Valley, where they can actually take the biogas from the dairy farms, from the cattle farms, and convert that into hydrogen. So, I mean, that's very exciting. but those won't be ready for a couple years at least. And so that's kind of a chicken and egg situation, and so these carriers who received, who are receiving grant funds, they're thinking about, well, what do we do in the meantime? And maybe they will shift to battery electric because the hydrogen is not penciling out right now. So that's yeah, but that asset though, the hydrogen fueling station is still there. And real, honestly, to make that pencil out and to bring down the price of hydrogen needs something around 20 more trucks using it constantly, right? Because then that's the demand that will then drive, more supply coming to the station that can then lower the cost of the hydrogen. So that's the chicken and egg. Right now, the price is too high. So then no one's going to use it. But then if you want someone to use it, then you have to have enough trucks to use it, right? So it's just that's the issue right now. I did mention that, both the YDV and Forum charging stations, the YDV charging station is under construction now. You can go over to off of Hagenberger and look at it. They're putting pipe, they're putting conduit. They put conduit in already. They're developing that site. It should be open this summer. And then Forum, they haven't broken ground yet at the port, but they should be, they should be up and running, at least starting construction this year. How am I on time? Is that okay? Okay, thank you.
Gary, do you know the address on Hagenberger?
I don't.
I want to say it's 8407 Edgewater, but it's on Edgewater, off of Hagenberger. It may not be 8407, but it's Edgewater and Hagenberger.
It's close to the Alameda Food Bank, right?
It is close, yes. It's right across from the former Walmart site. Is everyone familiar with the former Walmart site?
Okay, I don't think it was. Let's see. Can I have your help advancing the slide?
Yes, sometimes this is happening.
Can I ask a question before he moved on?
Oh yeah, sure.
He's going. Hi, I have a question about the cost of the hydrogen charging station. Who's paying? Are the drivers paying for the charge? Is the port like supplementing the cost of the charge? And what is that current price at now? And also, what is the optimal range that you're looking at to make it affordable for the drivers that will be going to electric?
Sure. I can actually say more about the hydrogen, so I'll start with that, where, like to make it comparable to diesel, you would want a kilogram of hydrogen to be about.
Describe a kilogram.
A kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So 2.2 pounds of yeah, like that, of hydrogen version of that. So you'd want that to be about, in the $5 to $6 to $7 range per kilogram. And right now, that's not what it is at the station.
What is it now? That was one of the questions. What is the current price right now?
So the price at the pump is $36 a kilogram. They wouldn't really sell it for that. It would probably be lower, probably in the 20s. But 20s is still too high.
Diesel price is $5.
Yeah.
For comparison.
And the money came from the hydrogen. If you don't know, it was our money. It was our public funds money to build that hydrogen. Honda and Bill help me here. The biggest pile of money came from Very Air Quality, California Air Resources.
Gary would know exactly who gave money.
It was public money that built this boondoggle, this thing right now.
Was it GGRF, Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund money?
That I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize.
And
I think it was actually
good to build the
CEC.
Infrastructure, it has a need, but we just haven't continued. I actually applied for 2 hydrogen trucks until I saw the price, and I was willing to pay the 5 times more because the trucks are too heavy to go on the road. So you have to find special cargo for it. It's like the test called PepsiCo, Frito-Lay, potato chip, because nobody knows what the actual weight of the truck is. The batteries are heavy, the hydrogen trucks are heavy. So I was gonna use them within the port complex. I happen to have 2 electric yard tractors, and I think those work perfect. I've had them since 2018. Just the infrastructure needs to be built out. We're not building infrastructure. So there is, for certain vocations, the new technology is great. Would I bet my livelihood on new technology? No. From the street point, when everybody requests scrappage of my diesel truck while I'm trying new technology, that's bad. Because I want to jump into new technology, but as an owner operator, if I was driving my own truck and I relied on that truck, there's no way I would do the switch. I rely on diesel, that earns the money. But if I'm a small fleet, I'm willing to take 2% on my trucks and say, okay, give me 2 trucks and I'll try them. But I'll have diesel as a backup just in case I get into a jam. So we need
So
to
that's
study
like
those.
working as a loaner, getting loaner trucks to see how it goes.
Yeah, I think Gary and Veronica were at the truck work group and they presented to us there. And I think they got some pretty good feedback from the truckers that they're trying to work through that. There are some issues that we pointed out, and they have to resolve those. 2 major ones that I think of is that were brought up is the cost of the liability insurance. They want us to get insurance that's like for a major company, $5 million limit instead of 1 million limit.
Wow.
For my small company, I've already priced it out. It's $75,000 extra per year to do that loaner. The other thing that needs to be mentioned is the cost of the vehicles. A diesel is going to get you, most of the trucks out here, we overpaid for them because of the regulation and the way the market was. But just say $50,000, you can buy a truck that's compliant, that's 2010 engine, that can work the port, compared with an electric truck at 400,000, hydrogen truck at 800,000. And so covering that for physical damage, which you're paying a percentage of the cost of that truck, 2 to 3%, it's a lot of money. So those are 2 items that came up. There's other stuff that came up. I think they're aware of it, and I think they were having meetings about it. So we appreciate you presenting at the truck work group. I won't rehash all that here, but from industry, we told them what it is.
Yes.
And
Yeah, I think so.
is a local ally and training many of us about his business, A&B Trucking, and also the support services that he has over 20 years now, Bill.
Came to Oakland in '92, just like you.
So yes, yes, people need to understand these variables as we start looking at greening up, because there is a lot of distinction that is not being discussed or get educated or being trained amongst us as residents.
All right, question. So I assume we're now making the same mistake of building infrastructure before we establish what the cost of the vehicles are going to be.
Well, for zero emissions, right now, the technology wise, there's 2 options. And so, there's the hydrogen option, which has already been built. And then there's the electric option, which would need to be built. And so those are our choices right now. That's kind of for the foreseeable future. And so I think with, most of the investments that we're talking about by the tenants and the terminal operators, they are interested and willing to go forward with the electric. So that's what they're doing with the grants. But there are, CTE helps with market research. We look at the manufacturers, the models that are available to do what the operators need them to do. Can a yard truck do 2 shifts or not? Can a top handler, does it have a big enough battery? Can it run those shifts? Those are the things that we look into. We do that research for these tenants, say, well, is it actually going to work for your operation? They also have they have their own people doing that too. So I think the short answer is yes, like they are committed to this. I mean, the EPA funding is a fantastic opportunity for them because they're putting up a lot less money than they would otherwise have to. So that's what this slide is about. It's kind of about those other tenants, the cargo handling equipment. And I think, for this type of work, the work is it's much better understood. They're going to be contained in the yard. They're not running that many miles. They actually count the operations in terms of hours. How many hours do they need to run? Right.
We're not buying $800,000 trucks.
Well, some are going to be more, but they're very specialized. I mean, they are expensive. There is the price of the price of new technology, and they are constantly being improved as well. So I can't answer that as like a judgment call, but there are partners who are invested in making these investments, and they do run. All of the terminals have demoed these yard tractors on their sites already. So they've all tried multiple manufacturers, like there's 5 different ones. They've tried them all. And so at least they have some knowledge that, okay, it seems like these will work for them.
We have one more question before I close this out for our 7:30 end time.
Okay.
Yeah. The latest round of battery prices is down to $80 a kilowatt hour, and that's even for stationary batteries. The larger companies are looking at being able to sell at maybe 60. So that changed. A couple of years ago, 3 years ago, it was like $200, $300 a kilowatt hour for mobile, and for $1,000 for stationary. So that's gone away, and the batteries were running like 60, 120, 150 watt hours per kilogram. There are a few companies selling 400 watt hour per kilogram batteries today. Amprius, which was started by a Stanford professor using silicon whiskers, is aiming at 500, as is Cattle in China. So they're aiming for 500 watt hours per kilogram. This means that the range should be able to, instead of just a couple hundred miles, should be able to get 300-400 miles, and then later on that'll extend farther. I guess I'll stop there. Oh, wait, one other question. In focus group that Bill did, that I drew Bill and some other police, you said that the electrical workers in the port who were PG&E employees tell them that the range of time that it'll take to get enough additional electricity to power a fleet will range from 18 months to 7 years. And the bigger the fleet, the longer it'll take. So, and it isn't just, you may be able to do, you may be planning for 500 watt trucks, but in order to actually do a demonstration, you need to be planning for 5,000 trucks. And the way you're going to get that electricity, given that West Oakland and the port are in the same bowl, is going to be putting solar on site over both parking and driveways as well as buildings. That's how you're going to get enough electricity, and then storing in batteries.
Yeah, so the points I take, and I apologize for going over my time. I think the points I want to take from that and share with you are, one, it is going to take time to build the infrastructure So the port tenants are just getting started to procure the design engineers who then, design the system, and then they will need to be constructed. The chargers need to be constructed. So we are working on timing it so that there are pieces of equipment that take a long time to produce, like 18 to 24 months, right? A year and a half to 2 years, just to make that piece of equipment. So we'll make sure that it's coordinated. So when the chargers are ready, the equipment arrives and they can start using it right away. My second point is about technological development. Do realize that, yes, there will always be better ones later, and they will get cheaper, and they will be able to operate longer, and they will, charge faster. But what I really appreciate about this grant is that it's providing the funds to get equipment out there as soon as possible for the community, right? So just understand that there's that trade-off. And so, yes, like there will be better things in the future, but I think as a community, you've done so much work to get this grant and these other grants and have this equipment deployed sooner. And so it might not be, the best, but it is the best right now. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, let's put one more thing. Who's the community partner? Does he have a community partner?
The community partners for Twin Ports would be.
No, him. Him just got to talk.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I went to.
Yes.
Who is your community partner?
Oh, no, he is part of our project partners. He's a CTE.
No, I didn't say not project partner. I said it's community partner. There's offices in East Oakland. Who is he partner?
Gary, can you answer? I'll let you guys answer that offline since I know you're not a community partner. Thank you everyone for coming and for your time, and we look forward to having more of these meetings. Yes.
Is there any chance for those of us interested just to hear briefly about the air monitoring piece or not?
Yes, I'm going to close out the meeting. That way folks can stay if they want to, but I do want to officially close this out. Okay. Yeah. So if you guys, you're welcome to stay. I also want to make sure that you have the opportunity to exit and take care of yourself and your family. And again, thank you for coming.